How to create better vampires today on Dungeons and Taverns. Welcome to Dungeons and Taverns. I'm Saul Sunforge, and I've been a DM since back when I was in the Navy in 2002. This channel here is to offer you helpful tips, hints, and advice, as well as a lot of homebrew rules, creations such as characters, magic spells, items. I also run a campaign called The Dirty 20, which you can watch here on this YouTube channel. And once there's enough viewer submitted questions, I have something called the Tavern Talk, where I get together with other players and dungeon masters in Discord, and we go over your questions and you get the answers from each one of us. All you have to do to be part of that is to leave a question in the comment section of any YouTube video, or you can follow me on Twitter, or you can join the Discord, and those things are down below. So thank you so much for watching, and I hopefully you enjoy the video. In my mind, vampires are supposed to be terrifying. They're supposed to be very, very fast, very strong. They should have a lot of supernatural powers. Like, they should be very charming and alluring to most people. In some of my videos, I go over monsters that have been changed over the course of the different editions of Dungeons & Dragons, and how they haven't gotten stronger, but they've gotten considerably weaker over the editions in name of inclusion. While I don't really necessarily have a problem with this approach, I also have a issue with players becoming more powerful as creatures become weaker at the same time. That seems to be my issue. And hopefully you can agree with that. Well, if you think that vampires are perfect as they are, they don't need to be more powerful or more terrifying or anything like that, you think they're perfect, no problem. It's not an issue. You don't have to continue watching. Thank you for watching this far, and I hopefully you come back for the next video. But for those of you who want to see vampires expanded out just a bit more, then go ahead and continue watching. First off, I want to say that vampires don't have to be your traditional looking Count Chocula, crazy Widow's Peak, crazy Widow's Peak type people. Okay, vampires can all look completely different from each other. It's fine. You can have unattractive vampires. After all, they are undead. They are rotting flesh, essentially. When playing the vampire, feel free to amp up their stealth and their elusiveness and their devious, cunning actions. You can do the traditional running water, stake through the heart, garlic, light sources hurting them. You can do all of that if you wish to, because but everybody knows about all those things. You could create different ones if you wish to. You can make it a vial of blessed water from the river Styx for all I care. Be as creative as you want. And I'd use that as advice for all monsters that you create. Feel free to change their weaknesses and their strengths up. You can do that. Your vampires can be very powerful spellcasters, but just because they're vampires doesn't necessarily mean that they know spells. You don't have to give them spells. You can give them psionic powers, for instance. Psionic powers are powers of the mind. Vampires already charm, but you can upgrade the charm a bit, because charm is kind of weak now. You get to charm. When you charm the person, they view you as a friend, and that's great, but they won't actually go and attack their previous allies. I feel like that's a huge part of charm that should be incorporated, is if they're on your side now because they regard you as their friend, then the previous people that they viewed as their friends attacking you are now their enemies because you're their friend. You see how that works? But they don't give you the whole thing. They give you just the potatoes, but they don't actually give you the meat. And I did just say give you the meat, and I'm going to leave that in. So there you go. But silly, crude joke aside, you should give them psionic powers. This way, excuse me. For instance, imagine a vampire is fighting a party member, right? And they're in a hallway or something like that. And they're getting backed into a corner. They're losing the battle. Well, if they had psionic powers, imagine them being able to push the party out of the way, or throw something through the air, or try to lift somebody up and reverse the gravity on them and then let them fall, taking that fall damage. Uh, and you could do all those things through psionics. A lot of that's available through spells as well, but it's just a different way to do it. See, everybody knows that there's tried and true tropes, and tried and true tropes work for a reason. They work because everybody loves them. Yes, people are tired of them, but they still love them. You can think of a whole bunch of them. Pirates, ninjas, zombies. But the real key is to do it differently. If you do these items differently, they're going to feel different, even though if it's the same concept that's always been presented. That's why, in my opinion, The Walking Dead at the very beginning was so successful. It's because they did something that everybody does, but they did it from a different angle. And everybody loved it. Speaking of The Walking Dead, I actually got to get back to watching that. Comment down below if you've watched The Walking Dead and what you think of it. You don't have to give any spoilers if you want, but I'm interested in what other people think about the show. Another thing is, you need to play up a vampire's cult of personality. You need to play up the fact that they have followers who are willing to do almost absolutely anything for them because of just how charming in their force of presence. You want them to be able to walk into a room, with their back up straight and their shoulders, spread out like they're supposed to be. And, everybody who's talking instantly stops talking and, looks and pays attention. And, you want them to, possibly have a booming voice and, they call the attention to them, attention everybody, something like that. You don't have to give them all the same blah, blah, the cartoony nonsense. You don't have to do that. And their speed, you want to make them fast, like super fast. Like you might consider giving them multiple reactions per round fast. Like they may be able to take a reaction and I just thought of this right now. Okay. So as a reaction, if they would get hit by an attack, they can use one of their reactions to turn into mist form and turn that hit into a miss and reform back. Okay? Or just when they're moving, okay? When they're moving, have them turn into mist, poof, and then poof, reappear as a vampire in the space that they're going to be at. And use these descriptors to your advantage. Use the speed to a terrifying advantage. You want to fully describe their fangs and what they look like. They're either their decrepit skin or their glowing skin or their very smooth and radiant skin. Probably stay away from the sparkles and stuff like that from Twilight, but it's up to you. Whatever you want to do is what you want to do. But I'm saying if you're trying to go for a traditional vampire, again, who's actually terrifying, then you probably want to leave those things behind. You can make them look debonair and suave and svelte. You can make them look great and, very attractive to everybody. But you don't have to make them a pansy at the same time. But the vampire can be so charismatic and such maybe a natural leader that he gets bunches and bunches of people from around everywhere to just do things for him just because he asked for it. Maybe you don't even have to make the vampire a big bad evil guy type character. They can be benevolent, they can be, but they can also have a wrathful side if you cross them. Perhaps you can even make a benevolent vampire king who is very just and loyal to his people and sees his role as their protector. Perhaps he even protects them against other vampires. How awesome would that be? He's fighting his urge to feed on his populace, and at the same time, he's protecting his populace against others who would feed, and that's causing turmoil amongst the vampire clans. So I talked a little bit already about giving the vampire some followers, and you want to make these followers not just peasants. You can actually make them very powerful and influential people, and you can actually have a vampire in the background who's actually actively charming a queen or a king into doing their bidding. And so they're actually the power source. You can go as far with this as you want to, really. It's a wealth of a topic. And yes, it's been covered, like I said, but I'm presenting to you ways to do it completely differently, and your players are going to love it. I, I promise you they're going to love it. Try it out. Let me know how it goes. And the last thing I wanted to say is your vampire doesn't have to be a loner. They can be, and that's completely fine if you want to do that. But a more, in my opinion, interesting take would be to have a cabal of vampires. In my campaign, the Dirty 20, right now, the party is very, very close to meeting a cabal of vampires. And each one of these vampires is going to be different in personality, in appearance, and in ability. Depending on how deep they get into the vampire mythos and lore in my campaign world, they may actually join fights between the different clans and maybe get raised and ascend in ranking inside clans, or even become a vampire themselves. That's entirely up to them. But what's up to you is what you do with the information that I just gave you. Hopefully it was helpful to you. And I will make videos in the future expanding on any topics I've covered. Just ask for it and you shall receive. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and let your friends know about the channel so they can come in and take a look too. Thank you so much. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.